Even on a day where the Angels win, I still think there's more bad than good. A great comeback victory, but boy, talk about a deadline dud. And oh, of course, the whole team is hurt again. We'll talk about all of it on tonight's edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast right now.
You are Locked On Angels Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, Halo Nation. Hello, Halo hopefuls. Hello, Postcast people. And welcome to the latest edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast. Coming at you, as always, live after every single Angels game here on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel and after the fact wherever you get the Locked On Angels podcast feed. If you don't know who I am Gavin Carlson. I spent 4 years as a credentialed journalist in the LA area, and I am now, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And I am an Angels fan, and I am a very conflicted, mixed, emotion-filled Angels fan tonight, because if you follow the series of events today, you came into this game, you came into this first pitch not thrilled. If you are even remotely aware of what this season is about, it's a frustrating day, and we'll get to the reasons why. The lack of activity at the trade deadline. Then we see Griffin Canning have about as awful of a start as you can have, giving up 6 runs through the first 2 innings. And I'm not going to lie, for the remainder of the game, even when the runs were starting to trickle in, I was negative. I was not happy. There was a frown on my face, probably until that Adell home run, that 2-run 8th inning to secure this win. But man, mixed emotions to say the least. We'll get into the deadline. Don't you worry. On tonight's show, we will get into the deadline later on, because the priority on this show is, of course, it's a postcast. We will talk about the game. The Angels did win 10-7. I didn't even say. They played the Colorado Rockies in the Big A. It looked like we were in Coors Field with that 10-7 final. Both starters were not good. The bullpens were shaky as well. But the Angels offense, the often criticized, and for good reason, Angels offense came through tonight. 14 hits, 10 runs, just about everybody doing something offensively. You love to see that. So certainly we will get to the deadline, because I have plenty of thoughts on the Angels only making 2 deals despite being 14 games under 500 coming into tonight. But we will also talk about the bullpen helping picking up Griffin Canning. But let's be honest, Griffin Canning also really settled in. After those 6 runs in the first 2 innings, he was great the rest of his start. But we have to start tonight's show talking about the offense, especially all the runs coming in just 5 innings, but the first inning, the third inning, the fourth inning, and the 8th inning. 4 innings where there's at least 2 runs scored. You absolutely love to see that. Not just solo shots, a whole variety of ways to get on base to score runs. But before we get into any of that, a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show. It is Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, in all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Shout out to everybody in here. You know I appreciate the support so much. And a team that we all support with mixed joy and sadness and pain is these Anaheim Angels. And boy, thank goodness for this offensive explosion, because it was a very frustrating day. Like I said, we will get into it. You can tell already, I keep hinting at it. There is a rant incoming about this trade deadline and what did and what, more importantly, didn't go down. But we have to talk about the Angels offense, because despite being behind 2-0, despite being behind 6-2, despite the game being tied at 7 late, there was always a response from the Angels lineup tonight. And it started right away in the bottom of the first inning, right away. Nolan Schanuel continues to be red hot as of late. I mean, red hot. If there's not a lot of things to make you excited about the future, there is still Nolan Schanuel. There is still Logan O'Hoppe, who didn't play tonight. There is Zach Neto, who didn't have a great game. But Nolan Schanuel, as of late, looking like a certain member of this team for the next decade. He's red hot, And it's not just base hits. He had multiple games in a row with home runs. He rips a leadoff double in the bottom of the first, and it starts a rally that would last the whole game. Nolan Schanuel double followed by back-to-back singles from Luis Rengifo and Taylor Ward. The Taylor Ward single was a 2 RBIer because Rengifo was able to advance to second after his base hit on a wild pitch. So it's second and third with nobody out, and on 1-1, Taylor Ward gets a splitter outside, and he lines it up the middle to center field, and just like that, it's 2-2. The Angels actually left some runners on. Looked like they had a real chance to extend this inning because there was a Willie Calhoun walk, and then with 2 outs, there was a Joe Adell hit by pitch. So Mickey Moniak comes out with with the bases loaded, and 2 outs, but he's not able to do anything. He grounds out to Brendan Rodgers, who actually makes a heck of a play to steal probably 2 runs for the Angels. We'll talk about how the Angels then gave up another 4 runs, Griffin Canning, in the second inning. But then, in the bottom of the third, like I said, down 6-2 at this point, and the offense had a response once again. Another double, kick-starting the rally. This time, Willie Calhoun doubles to center field. A wild pitch again gets him to third. There was chaos all game. All game. Wild pitches, home runs, extra base hits, down the line, diving catches, everything. And so once again, a double, a wild pitch, a walk. It's first and third with 1 out for Matt Thaiss. And boy, you know it's a crazy day. When Matt Thaiss comes through, he hits a ground ball down the right field line, and both Calhoun and Zach Neto on a close play. He had to turn on those Jets, but he was able to beat it out. And that 4-run lead, that 6-2 deficit, is cut in half. It's 6-4. Now we have to go all the way then, just one more inning, to the bottom of the 4th inning, where after a leadoff strikeout, back-to-back hits from guess who? Nolan Schanuel and Luis Rengifo. The top of the lineup played like the top of the lineup tonight. And we got to get used to this top of the lineup because despite 2 of these 3 guys being guys we weren't sure if they were going to be on this team, but in Rengifo and Taylor Ward, but hey, at least they came through. At least they came through because now, before we were rooting for, Rengifo's a little different, but Taylor Ward, Brandon Drury, some of those guys, we were rooting for them to do well so that we could trade them. But now that they are on our team officially for the rest of the year, and obviously Rengifo and Ward, both guys that will be on the team next year, now we're rooting for them to win the game, and also because they are a part of at least the immediate future of this team, of this franchise. So, it would have really angered me if right after we don't trade them, they then both lay an egg, and then we're like, great, we're stuck with these guys instead of prospects. Not really stuck as much with Rengifo because we know he's been great, but Taylor Ward at least. If he had a bad night tonight, after we didn't trade him, I would have been fuming. But luckily, as I was getting to, 3 straight singles, Schanuel, Rengifo, Ward, huge nights for all of them. The Ward single, once again, another RBI. Once again, Schanuel scores, and just like that, it's 6-5. 3 runs in back-to-back innings, 5 runs through the first 3 innings. Despite Canning's awful start, it's a 1-run game. But wait, the inning is not done. Because Neto gets hit by a pitch. Once again, there's more chaos, more walks, more wild pitches, more hit by pitches. Once again, the bases are loaded for a second consecutive inning after there was already runs scored. We're not talking about bases loaded and then the opportunity to start a rally. We're talking about 2 straight innings in the 3rd and 4th where the Angels scored 2 runs and then had the bases loaded. And unlike last time where Mickey Moniak gets robbed by a great play, Matt Thaiss comes through again. What is going on? Matt Thaiss, a liner to right field again. Rengifo scores. Ward scores. Neto gets to third. And just like that, the Angels go from down 6-2 to up 7-6 in a matter of 2 innings. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. We did have a frustrating Joe Adell strikeout with 2nd and 3rd and 2 outs and 2 strikes. And you just know the slider away is coming and you know he's swinging through it. But don't worry, we'll get to it. He made up for it. Bottom of the 5th, not much. Bottom of the 6th, not much. But bottom of the 7th inning, right after the Angels' lead disappears thanks to a Tovar home run, we'll get to that as well. Joe Adell, like we said, he had a response to that strikeout. He destroys a baseball. Destroys it. His 16th homer of the year, a 2-2 slider, and this time, unlike the last 2-2 slider, that was a good pitch down and away, and he had no business hitting. This was a 2-2 slider right down Broadway. And boy, 109.1 exit velo. He hit it 439 feet to straightaway center. And just like that, the Angels regain the lead 8-7. And just like that, they're on their way to a win, because in the bottom of the 8th, at this point, I'm starting to get the stream ready. I'm starting to try to, decide what my emotions are going to be. Should I still be frustrated about this awful deadline? But obviously, I'm happy that we're winning. But boy, this 8th inning makes it hard to be completely negative coming in, because Rengifo, again. And the moral of the story, the number one conclusion tonight, extend Rengifo tomorrow morning, maybe tonight, maybe before midnight. Extend Rengifo right now. You didn't trade him. You're not getting anything for him. He better be a part of this core for a while now. Him and Zach Neto and maybe Rendon at the corner, and certainly Schanuel at first, and certainly Ohapi at catcher, and certainly Soriano and Ben Joyce, and I guess Tyler Anderson. That is our infield and pitching and all that. Get used to it. Lock it in. Rengifo needs a contract extension as soon as possible. Another single for him. He steals second. Then he gets to third on a throwing error. Ward strikes out. Calhoun walks. It's first and third with one out. And then we get quite an interesting play. A Zach Neto bunt, where it was not a great night for him, but he gets creative. He drops down the bunt. Rengifo's able to score. Calhoun gets to second. And initially, Neto is ruled safe. He is eventually ruled out. But guess what? That didn't matter either, because guess who? Matt Thaiss again! What is going on? Matt Thaiss. Up the middle. Line drive. Kevin Pillar scores. It's 10-7. And I mean line drive. 108 exit velo. 101 or 1-0. Sinker down and in. And he crushed it. He ripped it. It's 10-7. I don't even know what, at that point I was like, okay, like I said, I was mixed on the emotions, but that inning, and specifically some of the names I'm about to read after this break, looking at this box score, unreal stuff. So yeah, certainly a very confusing day, but we will take the win. It's no secret the Rockies are terrible. It's no secret they are even more terrible on the road, and this is a game you got to win. This is a series you got to do well in. But hey, you did it. You handled business, and you very easily, down 2-0, down 6-2, even tied at 7-7, very easily could have lost this game multiple times. So you got to give the players credit. I'm never going to give this owner credit. And I'm starting to get on my last nerve with Mr. GMPM. But at least the players on the field tonight, and Ron Washington deserves his credit as well, specifically for Griffin Canning. We'll get to that after this first break here. A lot of comments, a lot of people in here. Appreciate the support so much. We're going to take our first break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. And when we come back, we'll talk about Griffin Canning. A horrible start. But hey, heck of some great resilience. Great coaching job from Ron Washington. The bullpen, other than one mistake, was great as well. And don't you worry, you'll hear my thoughts about the trade deadline. We'll get to all of that after our first break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. Today's show is brought to you by Supply House. I have some advice for you. You should get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trade, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business. And here's the key. Talk to a real person, not occasionally, not when it's convenient, every time. We love that. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Back here live, Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast. I am Gavin Carlson, and the Angels are victorious. 10-7, roller coaster game. Down 2-0, down 6-2, tied at 7. And they come through with a 10-7 win at home, a rare win overall, but a rare win at the Big A as well. Now Angels now rise all the way up to 47-60. Good thing we kept all our pieces. Don't worry, we'll get to the trade deadline talk in the last segment, but we have to talk about Griffin Canning because, boy, what a horrible start it was, but talk about the turnaround. In the first 2 innings, he gives up 2 runs in the first. We know the ERA was over 9 in the first inning coming into this game. That's right. There was a point in the season where Griffin Canning's first inning ERA was over 12. And we're going to give Ron Washington a lot of credit for emotionally being there for Griffin Canning tonight, helping him turn the start around. But we got to ask, deeper than Ron Washington, when are, some adjustments going to be made with Griffin Canning, pitching staff, coaching-wise, that is, to really look into these issues with Griffin Canning in the first inning? What is it? Is it a mechanics thing? Is it a mental thing? Is it a strategic thing? Or is the pitch choice is not good? Because what is supposed to happen as a starting pitcher is you're supposed to come out and go mow through the lineup the first couple of innings, because it's the first time each of these hitters is seeing you, especially this is a NL-AL game. Half of these guys, and a young Rockies roster, half of these guys, probably most of these guys, haven't even faced Griffin Canning. Sometimes I do the research beforehand on it. I was too worked up about the deadline to see who's faced Griffin Canning in his career, I'll be honest. But it's supposed to be easy at first, and it was not. It was not at all, and it has not been easy the first couple of innings for Griffin Canning all season. And once again, he falls behind early. Back-to-back singles to start it off. Charlie Blackmon, I cannot believe this guy is still playing baseball. I'm not an old guy. I am not an old guy. But Charlie Blackmon makes me feel old. Makes me feel old because I feel like I've heard that name and watched him and seen him without a beard and skinny, and then with the beard and big, and at one point an elite, like MVP caliber player. And now he's just Charlie Blackmon, DHing, but still leading off. And he immediately, just on the second pitch, rips a single up the middle. Then Ezequiel Tovar, who had a great game, first pitch of his at-bat, fastball right down the middle. He rips it. It's 2 on, nobody out. Ryan McMahon, up. I don't know why I can never. To be honest, I don't know how you pronounce his name. I don't. I see the name. I certainly know who he is. Good, strong lefty hitter. But I wasn't. We'll get into that later with the deadline rant. I was not listening to any broadcast tonight. I was watching the game on silent. I'll tell you why. Because I was frustrated. I'll tell you why in the last segment. I promise. But McMahon, I believe, comes up, has a great at-bat, works a walk on a full count. The bases are loaded for Chris Bryant, one of the worst contracts in sports history at this point. And with the bases loaded, he does come through. He absolutely crushes one 340 feet, almost a homer. But it is a sac fly. It's 1-0 Rockies just like that. But they had more in them. A Brendan Rodgers double on a liner to left field. Tovar scores, and luckily only 1 run scores in that at-bat. And luckily, that was the only 2 runs of the inning, back-to-back strikeouts from Canning to end the first. Then in the second, it's going to sound pretty similar because it's 3 guys getting on to start the inning. Single, walk, single. So once again, 2 singles and a walk to load the bases. And then once again, a sac fly. This time it's Tovar with the sac fly. And then, instead of a double, it's a Ryan McMahon homer. A 3-run shot, and it's 6-2 at this point. And then once again, just like the first inning, back-to-back strikeouts to get out of the inning. But man, 6 runs in the first 2 innings, not good at all. But hey, this is where things change for Griffin Canning. This is where then he was unbelievable. And I'm going to talk about Ron Washington right now, because we don't talk about Ron Washington a lot. We don't. And it's because this team stinks talent-wise. It's because this franchise stinks owner-wise, and at this point, GM-wise. We'll get to that. Fan base-wise, it certainly doesn't. There's still a pretty decent crowd tonight, despite the deadline disaster, despite the team being 14 games under 500, despite your best players, even on a bad team. Normally you have great, exciting players to go see. Mike Trout. Oh, wait, he doesn't play baseball. Anthony Rendon. Oh, wait, he doesn't play baseball. Even Logan O'Hoppe didn't play tonight. But we don't talk about Ron Washington enough because of the circus that is the rest of the franchise. But tonight was a clinic of what Ron Washington can do for a team like this. A team that talent-wise will never be there with, 75% of the league. But this guy's seen more baseball. He's forgotten more baseball than any of us will ever know. And he's also just character-wise, he's not here. It's two-sided, and the right two-sided. We saw it earlier in the year. It was a debate amongst the Angels community. Those suicide squeezes not working. Him coming out and publicly blaming Guillermo. Mixed emotions. People had different feelings about that. But there's one takeaway from that no one could dispute. Ron Washington, no BS. You're a veteran. I expect you to do these things. And if you don't, you're not good enough right now. For me. He's no BS. That's one side of Ron Washington because he's seen too much baseball. He's had too much success to take lackadaisical efforts or to take mistakes. There's one side of him. But the other side is he's just a good guy. He's just, he's what you call good people, right? And obviously I've never met Ron Washington. I never will. But I think I can tell, I think you can all tell, he's good people. And he goes up to Griffin Canning throughout this start. And he's hugging him. And he's rubbing his shoulders. And he's looking him in the eyes. And Griffin Canning, who continues to have bad starts, he turns it around. He turns it around and retires 12 straight. 12 straight. Think about that. 12 straight. The last two of the third inning, then 1-2-3 and 1-2-3 in the fourth and the fifth, and then gets the first guy out in the sixth. Great stuff. Excuse me, not just 12. It ended up being 14 straight because then he got it was a 1-2-3 sixth as well. So 14 straight to end the start after giving up 6 runs in the first 2 innings. And certainly Griffin Canning deserves credit, obviously, but Ron Washington, he certainly does as well for emotionally turning things around and strategically turning things around as well. He deserves his credit. We don't talk about Ron Washington enough because his team is losing and because we all know it's not his fault that they're losing. But the few times they win, don't forget to give him his credit because he deserves it. We'll take our last break here, and when we come back, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to talk about this disgraceful, disastrous trade deadline and what didn't go down, what should have happened, what didn't happen after our last break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. Now, today's show is once again brought to you by Prize Picks, if you somehow don't know by now. Not only is Prize Picks America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, but is also one of my favorite apps and websites on planet Earth. Why? Because it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, because unlike other apps where you got to compete against other people with these lineups that are all generated by AI and algorithms and statistics, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And it literally takes like 30 seconds to make a lineup. I'm not even kidding. There's been times where the Angels' first pitch is in like 90 seconds and I pick up my phone. I sign in. I have time. I'm so confident in the app that with 60 seconds left, I have time to quickly open up Baseball Savant, quickly look at a stat or two, and then go place the lineup. That's how efficient Prize Picks is. And the other great part, the promotions. On Tuesdays, they lower certain stat projections to help your lineups hit easier. And on Fridays, if you have a losing lineup, your first losing lineup, you get your money back. No questions asked. It's a risk-free lineup. So by now, I don't know how you haven't already, but if you haven't, certainly you're running to the App Store right now. Go to the App Store today, download the Prize Picks app, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Back here live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast. I'm Gavin Carlson. The Angels are victorious 10-7 thanks to an offensive explosion. We really quickly got to go through the box score and give the guys credit. Offensively, they really helped Griffin Canning out after an awful first 2 innings. Nolan Schanuel, 2 for 5 with 2 runs. Luis Rengifo, 3 for 5 with 3 runs. Taylor Ward, 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs and a run. He still managed to have 3 strikeouts, but we won't complain tonight. We will not complain tonight. Willie Calhoun, 1 for 3 with a run and 2 walks. Zach Neto, he didn't have a hit, but he did score a run. He did have an RBI. He did get on with a walk. Matt Thaiss, probably the player of the game, 3 for 5 with 5 ribbies. Matt Thaiss, 5 ribbies. The OPS is suddenly 720. The average is suddenly 253 because he doesn't play a lot, and he goes 3 for 5 with 5 ribbies. He had a double in a big moment. He had a liner for a single in a big moment. He was great. Joe Adell still maybe had the biggest swing of the game because with it tied 7-7 in the 7th inning, he rips a solo shot. It's his only hit of the game, but it was a huge one. Mickey Moniak's just a 1 for 5. He's cooled off a bit. And Luis Guillerme goes 1 for 4. Pilar also had a pinch hit where he did score, or he was a pinch runner, and he scored a run as well. 14 hits, 10 runs. And yet, for some reason, despite that great offensive performance, despite, Ben Joyce having another great inning, despite Hunter Strickland having another great inning, we did have a Quijada home run that he gave up, but it's all right. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Despite all of this, despite the win, I am still more angry today than I am happy. And if you don't somehow know by now why, it's because of this disastrous trade deadline for the Los Angeles Angels today on Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. Why is it disastrous? Why? Because coming into the deadline, and I'm not talking about in the last few days, I'm talking about for weeks, arguably for months, we've known what this team, what this franchise, what GMPM, what Artie Moreno, although he'll never do anything right, but what this franchise needed to do. You needed to trade your bullpen arms that were valuable for other teams. You did that with Carlos Estevez. You did that with Luis Garcia. We'll get to the Garcia trade in a second. But what else did we all, there's debates about certain players, but we all agreed. Tyler Anderson having a great year. You have to trade him. You have to. He is way more valuable for another team than for ours. The prospects we can get back for him are way more valuable for our team next year and certainly after next year than Tyler Anderson could ever be. No knock on him. He's just on a losing franchise, and he needs to go somewhere where it's win now. So we certainly all agreed on that. And we all agreed that if you could get anything for Taylor Ward based on how bad he was as of late, you got to jump on that as well. And we were hearing for a month straight that there were people interested in Taylor Ward because he's had better seasons than he's had this year. Because even in bad seasons, he still has the occasional grand slam, like he did literally the last game before the deadline in which we thought was his last game as an Anaheim Angel, as a Los Angeles Angel. Somehow, despite him hitting 230, despite the average going from like 260 to 230 in the past month or so, there was interest. And then there's Luis Rengifo. That one's up for debate. I get it. But somehow, the Angels didn't trade any of those three. Someone's got to make it make sense to me how Tyler Anderson doesn't get traded. There are not many arguments for him. The only one that I've heard, and I'm going to debunk it right away. Well, this rotation is weak, and we have him for another year, and he's a lefty, so next year he can be our ace again. He can lead a rotation. We need him. We don't have many starters. But guess what? Tonight, Griffin Canning, even with 14 consecutive outs, still gave up 6 runs. Even with half of the rotation hurt. Chase Silseth, I can't even say his name with my half lisp. Him and Reed Detmers, they're not sniffing the majors. Even with Patrick Sandoval out. Why am I saying all this? Because this rotation is not keep Tyler Anderson and acquire one arm away from being a winning rotation. This rotation is like 3.5 arms away, even if you keep Tyler Anderson. Because you know how high I am on Jose Soriano. But he still has like 3 months as a professional starting pitcher. He still has highs and lows. Other than that, you've got Griffin Canning, who, like I said, he retired 14 straight guys and still gave up 6 runs. His ERA is still 5.25. He still didn't get the win, despite getting 7 runs of run support. And you're telling me, you being some people, that, we kept Tyler Anderson because our rotation with him is maybe a starter or two away. No. The rotation with Tyler Anderson is still probably 3 starters away, other than Jose Soriano. And you're not getting that in one offseason, especially when you didn't get it this offseason, when you had Patrick Sandoval, when you had Reed Detmers at the time, when you had Chase Solseth at the time, and there was some thought that, hey, maybe this team's not going to be good, but they're not going to be this bad. But you're telling me with what we've seen from this rotation, with random guys, Kohanowitz or whatever, Davis Daniel, Zach Plesac, we've seen the guys that have come in and laid an egg in the rotation. And I don't think that's a reason to keep Tyler Anderson. That's a reason to say Tyler Anderson could throw a no-hitter every night, and there's still a good chance we're losing the other 4 days. Think about that. And best of all, there's been starts this year where he's done that and we've lost. This guy has a sub-3 ERA all season, and he's got a losing record. And you want to tell me that we need to keep Tyler Anderson because we need an ace? For what? For what? It makes no sense. Taylor Ward makes even less sense. He's not it anymore. He had a great game today, but he's still not been it. And with him, unlike a starting pitcher, with Taylor Ward, you can see me sweating here. I'm sweating. I'm shining on the camera because I'm so aggravated. Taylor Ward, not only could you have gotten something for a guy who's been pretty bad this year, who is a D- glove, who this year has been a C bat, and you could get something for him and get his contract off your salary cap or off your salary bill, whatever. But not only that, he's hitting third every night. I want to see Logan O'Hoppe hitting third. I want to see Zach Neto moving up. I want to see Nolan Schanuel occasionally hit third when Rengifo's hitting second and Rendon's leading off. I want to see Mike Trout come back and fill that spot. I'm tired of seeing Taylor Ward hitting third every night, even when he's playing well, because we're not playing for anything. And I want guys to get experience. And as long as Taylor Ward is in the lineup, he's hitting third every night. And I just don't think that's good for the development of a lot of these players that should be battling to try to move up in the lineup. Taylor Ward for the last 2 months has been one of the worst hitters in the lineup, and he's never moved out of third. Think about that. He should have been gone. He should have been gone. Rengifo, like I said, I'm okay with not trading him. I really am. I think that is the one guy where you can be very picky and say, I need a lot for this guy. I need a lot for him in order to trade him, because we are trading him when he's doing really well, but he also has injury concerns. So if someone was going to trade him based on just his stats, you get a pretty big package, and then I think you unload. But because we didn't trade him, I have a feeling that people were thinking about the injury, thinking about him being a contact hitter in 2024, when that's not the most popular thing. And maybe you didn't get a package that was good enough, in your opinion, for Luis Rengifo. That I'll accept. But the other two, inexplicable. And even more inexplicable than all of this. I'll say this and then I'll finally get to the comments. Somehow, despite us talking all month about trading those 3 guys, at least trading 2 of them, ignoring Rengifo, the only logical reason, or the only thing that could, turn the emotions around, turn my sentiments, my feelings about today around, despite not trading any of those 3 guys, is at least if we had a great deadline otherwise. And what would have made it a great deadline otherwise? Well, we got a great haul for Carlos Estevez. Great trade. Good job. Luis Garcia traded 10 minutes after the deadline. Not the name I would have liked to see 10 minutes after the deadline as the Angels traded, the one the Angels traded. But I don't know a ton about the prospects. But we got 3, maybe 4 guys back. I've heard conflicting reports. I'm sure by now it's confirmed. But honestly, after 3 p.m., I wasn't really down to check anymore. I was very angry. But you got multiple prospects for a guy who was not that great. Certainly, he'll probably go pitch well for the Red Sox as they try to make a playoff push. But I'm satisfied with both of those trades. But here's why I'm not satisfied with the deadline at all. Not only because the aforementioned trades that didn't happen, but how in the heck do we not trade Kevin Pillar for anything? For anything. It's an expiring contract for a guy whose OPS is 824, whose average is 287, who's a unbelievably perfect locker room clubhouse guy, character guy, leader guy. I mean, Kevin Pillar would be perfect for a team like the Orioles. A bunch of young guys. You get a veteran who can show up, who, if you're hitting against a lefty, if you're hitting against a lefty, can come in as a pinch hitter in the 8th inning and maybe do something, and then still stay in in the 9th and be a great fielder, an above average fielder, despite his age. There's not many guys that check every box. And let's not act like Kevin Pillar is a superstar, okay? But in terms of what you would have to give up to get him, I better not hear that, there was offers, but they weren't good enough. If I hear that from the Angels front office, because at the end of the day, and you can't convince me otherwise, any offer where you get one prospect back that isn't like a single A, guy hitting 200 is better than having Kevin Pillar and then watching him leave in the summer while you're 13 games under 500. And so KC24J, I see your comment, and I'm sure there wasn't great offers coming back for Pillar. But for so many reasons, you got to trade him. One, for his own sake. Free the man. But I get it. This is a business. So from a business standpoint, what does Kevin Pillar bring to your team? Not only next year, obviously he brings nothing. But here's the funniest part of all. And there's thoughts just popping in my head because I'm forgetting how ridiculous everything is. Think about this for a second. Maybe we weren't getting a ton back for Pillar. Okay. But whoever we get back is someone that's going to be here next year when Pillar isn't. But here, I'll do you one better. We don't even play Pillar. We don't even play him. Joe Adell's hitting 193. Mickey Monak's hitting 207. Taylor Ward in the last month is probably hitting in the 150s. All in the outfield. And Pillar doesn't play. Just look at tonight. What did Pillar do tonight? He was a pinch runner. And a night where Logan O'Hoppe, Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, none of them played. And Kevin Pillar is a pinch runner. And you're telling me that there was nothing that was good enough to give up that? I mean, he's basically, we treat him like Billy Hamilton. He's in here just to be a pinch runner. And you're telling me that the Royals or whatever wouldn't have traded Billy Hamilton for a bag of chips at the deadline if they could get it? If there was a single offer for Kevin Pillar that included a single prospect, and we did not make that deal, that is shameful. There's no way to justify it. There's no way. Because he does not start. This team is, even if he did start, you know what selling at the deadline is? It's selling. It means you have to get rid of players in order to bring players back. But he doesn't even start on our team. So they better have not been stingy with him. Same thing with a Willie Calhoun. I get it. Brandon Drury, there's probably nothing coming in for him. I would have thought about DFAing him. But if you're telling me there were offers that included a single prospect for Pillar, Calhoun we play every day. But still, we're still 13 games under 500, guys. So still, Pillar, Calhoun, Hunter Strickland, Matt Moore, any of these expiring contracts that are literally going to do nothing for this team next year. If any offers came in for those guys, it's shameful. It is shameful. And we'll never know. I have so much more I want to get into. I want to get into the Perry Managian press conference where he spoke to the media because some of the answers were laughable. But I don't got time. We're 40 minutes in, and I still want to read comments and then get on out of here because it is 10:12 p.m. But here, what I'll promise you guys right now is the trade deadline talk will not stop. Tomorrow, the day after, heck, for the next month, we got to watch this team probably stick out, at least 10 games under 500 for the rest of the year. There will be plenty of time to talk about the trades that didn't happen, the state of the franchise going forward, all of that. So we'll quickly read the comments. The Angels did win tonight. We'll read the comments, and then we'll wrap this one up. Anaheim Angel responding to Jeff, who Jeff was in here saying we might actually get a win. Anaheim Angel says, Jeff, we won. This team is messing with my emotions. Still won't make the playoffs, but at least they overcame Canning, give up 6 runs early. All of those are true statements, but no truer statement than this team won't make the playoffs. That is the truest of them all. Big game for Matty Thaiss. 3 hits, 5 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases. That's right, Anthony Jimenez. Shout out to you. Shout out to Daniel Barry. Shout out to Break Less. He said, look, at this point, I'm just happy that it looks like we will avoid the 100-loss season. I'm not so certain. I get it. I get what you're saying. Because we didn't trade everybody away, this team should theoretically be good enough to not get 100 losses. But this furthers my point about the deadline. Do we really feel that much more confident now about the team than if Tyler Anderson was off of it? Because like I said, Tyler Anderson was pitching the best baseball of his life. Sub-3 ERA. And he still had a losing record. So I don't know how much that affects things. But I hope we don't see that triple digits in the loss column, certainly. Anthony Jimenez says, disappointing trade deadline, as definitely is. Anaheim Angel says, glad we hung on to Rengifo. Maybe we find a way to dump Ward in the offseason. Okay, maybe. You better do it, though. Because, like I said, Ward's value was low. I get it. And so I'm sure we felt like we didn't get enough in return for him. But hopefully he has a great second half of the year. Has games like he did tonight. And then you can trade him at the deadline. But the value at the deadline for trades is always so much higher than in the summer. It just always is. KC24J, light that baby up. Absolutely. Still a great win. Still, I know I'm being negative. I'm a positive guy, though. I promise I'm a positive guy. And still very, very happy with the win because everybody played well. Just about everybody. Even Canning eventually played well. Jimenez says, when is Rendon bubble wrap bobblehead night? Didn't even get to Rendon and Trout injuries. We'll talk about it tomorrow. News and stuff like that is not the priority because we have the Locked On Angels daily podcast. We're at 41 minutes, and I got to wrap this one up. A lot of jokes from Anthony Jimenez and Angels win about bobbleheads and towel nights and all that. Love to see that. Thanks for confirming Angels win that 4 guys came for Garcia. And yes, I agree. The Braves would have been a great reunion. We saw a couple reunions at this deadline. We saw so many deals. We saw Kikuchi go for so much. And we don't trade Tyler Anderson. Oh, I can't believe it. Angels win said, would you give Perry Minasian an extension in the offseason? I don't think he wants to be here. Based on that press conference, I don't think he wants to be here. Yeah, I don't know. Waiver wire trade's a possibility. Sean, Ireland, says, I'd imagine Perry gave the choice to Pilar on whether he wants to get traded or ride it out here for his career based on their relationship in Toronto and Atlanta. I think that's what Perry should do, but based on the fact that Pilar is still here, there's no way, at least in my opinion, that Pilar would choose to stay here instead of going back to Atlanta and competing or going anywhere else and competing. Unless he really loves Anaheim, he really loves the weather. I don't see why you wouldn't go to way better first-class organization with the Braves or anywhere else compared to Artie Moreno's Angels and be a contender. So I don't know. It's a theory. Certainly, I would hope that Perry Minasian would do that because Kevin Pillar, both as a player and a leader and as everything, has deserved that type of treatment. But also, if he was given that treatment, I'd like to stay on this team. But with all that being said, we got through all the comments. So many people in here live. Appreciate it so much. I think the biggest numbers we've seen in terms of live viewers. So shout out to all of you. I hope you enjoyed this postcast. Quite an eventful one, longer than normal. Normally they're 30 minutes, but this was a special edition because not only did we have to talk about a crazy game. If this game was 6-0 or something, I would have talked about it for 5 minutes and I would have spent 25 minutes talking about the deadline. But this game was so good and so competitive and so up and down and so exciting and so meaningful, not in terms of the standings or anything, but in terms of players coming through, that I need to spend 20 minutes talking about it and then spend the last segment, which ends up being twice as long, on the deadline. But with all that being said, not Shohei Ohtani, would have loved to trade for him at the deadline. With all that being said, I'm Gavin Carlson. Thanks for the kind words. Angels win, saying great show. Good night to all of you. Appreciate it as always. Please, with all the people in here, I know that not every single person in here is subscribed. So if you are new and if you liked me, despite me yelling, despite my face, despite the lack of an Angels banner on the wall, because yes, believe it or not, today was the day I was going to put the banner up, and I was so frustrated at the deadline that I didn't put it up. But the banner will be up soon, And hopefully, if you have not subscribed already, you will do that soon, and soon as in right now. If you're on your phone, flip it upwards, click the button. If you're on your laptop, scroll down, hit subscribe. All of you, whether you subscribe or not, please hit the like button. Leave a comment after the video. Leave a comment. I know I respond live, but I also am going to start. I have not been doing it. I'm going to start doing it right now. I'm going to start replying to your comments after the fact as well. I've been fumbling the bag on that one. So please leave a comment after the fact as well. Let me know what you think of the deadline for the Angels. I will respond. And finally, if you listen on a podcast platform, leave a 5-star review and hit me up on X. Let me know how I did. But with all that being said, Angels win 10-7. I know we forgot about it because the last time I mentioned the game was about 20 minutes ago. But Angels win 10-7. The deadline, not so much of a win, but hey, it's just the Angels experience. I'm Gavin Carlson. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And I'll be back here tomorrow, hopefully after another Angels win, to talk about the game. And we'll talk about the deadline a little bit more. I'm Gavin Carlson. Thanks so much. And go Angels, everybody. Good night.